rose of the ashes, the spirits light up the night, looking down.
Now, from the Untold Radio Network, it's Untold Radio AM with Doug and Alex Hajicek.
Hello, everybody.
Hey,
We launched exactly on time.
perfect. A first.
No, what's up?
I'm just kidding.
Oh my God, Buttworm's here.
Perfect.
Live in chat. Hey, Buttworm.
Hey, buttworm.
Like his icon. Hey, Kevin. We got all sorts of people coming in now. Anyhow, hello everybody, and hope everybody's having a great week. Because I know today it's beautiful weather out, and I actually got out today.
I know.
Did you? What do you mean you know? How do you don't know I got out?
I know it's nice out.
Well, yeah, you know that. But I never get out.
I
I'm
know you
always
don't.
stuck on Wednesdays. So anyhow, I got out today. It was
Well,
nice.
that's good.
And it's
that's
been,
good.
the weather's, it's been crappy.
Yeah, it has
Here-
been. What's up with that?
I don't know. Hopefully we get a little nice streak. So tonight, Alex, we have something to celebrate. I guess we're even over 11,000 now. We just
We
hit
are.
10. And before I blinked, we're at 11. So
I
things
know.
are
It's
picking up momentum, slow but sure. But to celebrate, we're going to have another guy that's been involved in radio for many, many years, an old friend. He is, he's pretty famous. I mean, people even way out of state, wherever his signal has reached, because I know he's been on a few super stations. He's been online for many years. TD Mischke. He is a legend for sure.
He is.
I don't think anybody I've ever mentioned TD Mischke to has ever said, oh, I don't know him. No, everybody goes, oh my God, TD. Yeah. You listen to him all the time, blah, blah, blah. So anyhow, it'll be fun to reminisce, go over a bunch of stuff. And he's had a lot of really cool experiences. All right. So we're going to do that. And then we're going to have technical
Breakdown.
yes. And I'm going to do a little thing on vibrational arms. David's going to come on and talk a little bit about unknown sounds. We've got a few quick news clips, and we're going to get to TD and get the show on the road.
Awesome. Let's do it.
TD is the guy that put the verb in talk radio, man.
Nice.
Yeah. So anyhow, I'm excited to talk to him. What else we've got? Yeah, we're gonna skip clips today. So let's just go right. Oh, I was gonna mention. Root canals are really bad.
They're terrible.
Yeah, they're not fun. And I've had a few of those through the years. But I went in because remember the tooth that broke off right before we went on the air here back
Yeah, right before.
6 weeks ago or what? Yeah, like literally right before. So I went in finally to get the surgery to get those roots out, right?
The surgery.
Well, then it's like, do you want an implant? Yeah, well, let's just do the bone graft. So they went in there and did a long bone graft. I was in there for, 2 hours in surgery. That's not fun to hear your skull getting scraped, not your teeth.
No,
They actually go in and scrape your skull to make room for this bone graft that they're going to do, because you have to have a lot of bone built up for a titanium implant. So I'm just kind of like still today, kind of a little weird.
Ugh.
And then Monday I broke 2 ribs.
2 ribs?
Yeah, I came home and the kitchen was flooded from a pipe that went bad, right?
Yeah.
So I'm like, I just had got done working all day in the shop, come back, and then and I got to deal with that mess. Well, I don't have to explain how I broke ribs, right, when your kitchen's flooded. So I won't get into details, but I fractured 2 ribs. Yeah, and it hurts still when I breathe.
Fractured 2.
Yeah. It's been a week anyhow.
Yeah, sounds like it's been a week.
Oh, but John Ayers, I was going to mention John, our moderator, is in the hospital recovering.
Yeah, so I hope he
From,
gets better soon.
Yeah, from a leg injury or something like that. So anyhow, prayers out to John. Hope he recover quick.
Prayers.
Well, and maybe he can watch in the hospital, but I doubt it. All right, let's get on to some news, some untold headline news. So throw up photo 1. Did you know honeybees, Alex, can apparently now they can smell cancer. They can smell a lot of things, but now they're planning on using bees to detect lung cancer.
That's incredible. Detecting cancer with bees.
Yeah, but I want to know how did this get discovered, right?
Some guy tinkering
Tinkering with bees and cancer. I'm just kind of wondering. I'm not really sure how that all works, but it's a cool discovery.
It is
weird. But so maybe instead of an X-ray next time or a CT scan, they're going to unleash the bees.
Unleash the bees.
Yeah, that could be. I don't know. Whatever. It's a lot of weird stuff. And they say something weird. I love this headline. Something weird is happening to the Earth's inner core. Well, isn't the Earth's inner core already kind of weird, Alex?
Yeah, it is weird.
Molten crap floating around, spinning, God knows what.
Spinning.
But they're saying there's something weird going on. Like
something weird.
Yeah, it says a new study seems to bolster a contentious claim that the inner core's rotation has slowed tremendously.
Yeah,
tremendously. What does this mean? They don't even know yet. They don't know what it's going to do. They don't know what it means. They just know that apparently the core is moving slower than the Earth's mantle for the first time in apparently 40 years. So this has been detected or suspected in the past.
Unbelievable.
What's unbelievable?
That the core is out of control.
The core is out of control. I don't know how you went to slowing down to out of control, but yeah, that's good. That's good. Cause a worldwide panic, Alex. The core is out of control. Nice. Okay. The next apparently they just found out that beluga whales can communicate by warping that big blob on their forehead. Oh, there you go. You see that thing?
Yeah, the blob.
Yeah, the fat. What do they call it?
The fat blob.
They call it they do call it a blob. Yeah, they call it a blob. Forehead fat blob. So apparently they can change its shape and they can communicate. Nice. I think that's how middle-aged men communicate when they go to the mall. They just change the shape of their tummy blob.
Middle-aged men.
That could be. We don't know that.
We don't.
No one studied it. Nobody got a grant. Maybe Mischke can get a grant. You get a scientific grant to study how men can mold their melon-like stomachs.
Melon-like.
So apparently that they've studied this in whales in captivity. They say they can mold their melon-like forehead into at least 5 shapes. Count them, 5.
5.
What shapes could that possibly be other than blob, 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 and blob?
Right.
Does it form into a diamond? I don't think so.
A diamond.
Well, what other shapes would there be?
I know. What other shapes?
I want to see these other shapes. All right. Apparently, this kind of makes me go, It says the sun's influence apparently is having an effect on lightning. And scientists are saying, yes, it does. So I'm thinking, okay, pay attention here now. So it's apparently using 50 years of sun activity and data and lightning data right here on Earth from 1930 to 1970. So as you can hear, it's really current data, right? 1970. That's just current.
State of the art.
State-of-the-art current data. Scientists have found a direct correlation, right, to the 11-year solar cycle of lightning.
11
They don't really
years.
say what, how, blah, 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 but they're just saying it has an effect on the lightning here on Earth. Well, it's common sense, right?
Yeah.
And to me, it is.
Common sense.
It's a logical link. All right, enough of that. That's all I've got in science stuff. There really wasn't anything interesting unless you want to hear about a rat's paw or something. I don't think so.
No.
And I'm not getting into politics. A lot of news there, but not touching it. All right.
Next.
So that's enough of that crap. Let's go into trivia. And I thought the lightning thing gave me an idea. I said, let's do trivia on lightning real quick.
Let's do it.
All right. Do you want to play your bumper?
Yeah.
You're the bumper guy. Now you forgot about the bumper.
Here we go, guys.
Oh my
Buckle
God.
up. And we're back.
Oh my God. That's so cheesy. Okay. Okay, let's do this. We're going to test everybody's knowledge on lightning. Apparently, we don't have any data since 1970, but whatever. Lightning has been lightning. Okay, so lightning became part of man's superstitions, his myths, and his early what else? What other category did it affect besides superstitions and myths? Is there another category you can think of, Alex?
Superstitions, myth, religion?
Religions, yeah. It's pretty good.
That's pretty good. I must be cheating.
Yeah, you probably are. Okay. Lightning creates heat hotter than the sun, right? We know that.
I've heard that, yeah.
Okay. And that's really cool. But apparently experts say that can be as hot as, is it 50,000 degrees, 70,000 degrees, or 80,000 degrees?
70,000?
I'm going to watch chat. 70 is your guess? Anybody
Yeah.
else? Yeah. Nobody gives a shit crap about this lightning trivia, do they? Do they? I don't know. It's 50,000. So to put that in context, that would be like, I mean, that's 3 times hotter than the surface of the sun, right? That would be like Mischke getting 699 12-volt batteries together and 699 million batteries and hooking them together.
And doing what with them?
Hooking them together. Wiring them in series. That's what it would be like.
I'd like to see that.
Yeah. Anyhow, so yeah, Loretta got it right. Nixon got it right. Yeah, Jen got it right. Okay, so water in the path of lightning does what? Does it vaporize? Does it act like a conduit? Or does it cool the lightning off, the water in the atmosphere?
It's
Cool it off, vaporize it, or conduct it, make it more conductive. Conductive, you're wrong.
Ooh.
It just instantly
Wrong.
vaporizes the water.
Just vaporizes.
Just vaporizes it.
Wow.
The Empire State Building has been reportedly struck by lightning how many times per year on average? Is it 10 times, 14 times, or 23 times per year?
23.
You were right.
Nice.
Did you cheat?
Not this time. I should have.
Well, why should you have? You got it right. Okay. Do you ever think about what's the diameter of lightning? What is the diameter of it? How thick? I always thought it was like,
Yeah, just
like the
thick.
size of a tree trunk about.
Yeah. Is it? It's gotta
Okay.
be thin.
Yeah, so I'm going to give you 3 guesses. Is it 10 inches wide, 5 inches wide, or 1 inch wide?
1 inch.
Why do you say 1 inch? Other than cheating.
Well, you were so nice. You gave me the answer.
How was I nice?
You said, hey, I thought they were really, really
Well,
wide.
5 inches ain't that big. 10 inches ain't that big.
Yeah, that's
It's
true.
1
That's
inch.
true.
So apparently the diameter of the lightning channel is about only 1 inch.
So it's like a laser beam. It's just like wham.
Yeah. But it says
Yeah.
they can also go up to 2 to 7 inches.
Okay, that's pretty big.
Yeah, but they believe they're closer to 1 inch. They don't really freaking know.
Yeah, how are you gonna measure that? It's so
No.
quick.
How long can lightning be? Is it 1 mile, 20 miles, or 90 miles long?
90.
A bolt. How long
90.
can one bolt be? 1 mile, 20 miles, or 90 miles long?
90 miles.
And why do you say that?
Why am I on fire tonight?
Yeah, why are you saying 90?
Because it
That's
sounds
ridiculous.
huge. Sounds huge.
It is, yeah, that's right. 90 miles apparently can travel.
I
It
just
is.
gotta pick the most outrageous answer. It's right.
Oh, I see. I get you. Yeah, well, that's right. You're cooked next time.
Uh-oh.
What state is the most lightning strikes? Is it Florida, Oregon, or Mississippi?
Florida, Oregon, or Mississippi?
Yeah. What state has the most lightning strikes?
Mississippi.
Come on, Buttworm, give us an answer.
You're too busy cheating.
Florida. Yeah, it's Florida. You didn't even guess, Alex.
Really?
No,
I said Mississippi.
oh, you did. I didn't even hear it. Okay. Where is Lightning Alley? Is it in Kansas, Florida, or Oklahoma?
Kansas.
Kansas.
Yeah.
Lightning Alley. Anybody know where that is? Lightning Alley. Kansas, Florida, or Oklahoma? Ding, 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 ding. It is in Florida. It's not Kansas, Alex. That's you're thinking of Tornado Alley.
No.
So what is the most struck place on Earth? Is it France by the Eiffel Tower? Because the Eiffel Tower is solid metal, right? Is it the USA because of Florida? Or is it some other country like Venezuela?
Some
Most
other
struck
country
place on Earth.
like Venezuela.
Venezuela?
Yeah.
Oh my God, I swear you're looking at my screen. Yes, it is Venezuela. It apparently experiences more lightning than anywhere on Earth. And apparently there's a place called Lake Maracaibo, which is right off the Caribbean Sea, and it holds the record for the highest concentration of lightning.
Nice.
Yep. They get 260 storm days per year. Could you imagine that?
Phew.
It's kind of like Minnesota now.
Yeah.
150 which apparently have lightning. Yep.
Gosh.
Apparently they get 30 lightning flashes per minute there.
That's a brutal one.
Oh, they think that maybe it could be from the abundance of methane over Venezuela from the oil fields. That's somebody's theory. Who knows? Thunder can be heard from how far away? Is it 15 miles, 10 miles, 20 miles? How far can thunder be heard from?
20 miles.
Alex picks 20. Come on, Loretta. Come on, Buttworm, Nixon, Ristall. It's a 20. It is 10.
10.
10 miles. Yeah, that's the answer.
It's 10.
So a lightning bolt can have up to how many volts? 10 million, 200 million, or 1 billion volts of electricity?
Billion.
1 billion?
1 billion.
That is correct. 1 billion. You guys got to be quick. It's 1 billion. That's a lot of voltage, man.
That's huge.
That's actually 79.4 million 12-volt car batteries that Tommy Mischke would have to wire together to come up with 1 billion volts.
That's how electrified Mischke's viewers get.
Yeah. Well, that's a lot of car batteries. 79 million of them. Whoa. Okay. Okay. This is kind of a weird one. More men or women are killed by lightning. Is it men or women?
Men. Men.
You are right. It is men, and it is 81% are men. So it's very disproportionate. So there's no reason for that. I guess because maybe men are outside more fishing, hunting,
Golfing.
boating, golfing. Yeah, that's probably why. So there's one guy apparently in the world that's been struck by lightning. How many times? Is it 10, 8, or 7? And survived. 10, 8, or 7?
7.
7, you're right. He's been struck 7 times as a park ranger.
That's a lucky number, right?
I'm not
7?
giving you his name. Do you remember that movie? What was that? The Great Outdoors with John Candy?
Yeah.
And they're in the bar, and there's that guy, and it's like how many times they asked how many times he got struck by lightning. He's like 999. Anyhow, okay.
The Great Outdoors.
That's all I got. That's it for
Was
trivia.
it time to bring David on?
No, I'm going to talk about vibration alarms for 1 minute, and then we'll bring David on.
Okay, cool.
Then
cool.
Mischke.
Perfect.
All right, so you can play your bumper, Alex.
Here we go, guys. Buckle up.
I swear you had 2 of those bumpers were playing. It was echoing. Can you play 2 at once?
Yeah, I wish I could play 2 at once, but
It was echoing. Anyhow, okay. So what I want to talk about is what's on the screen. These are very, very inexpensive. I don't want to say cheap because they're actually very well made. These are remote control vibration sensors with numerous different sounding alarms, right? And you get this remote control that you can arm from 50 feet away or disarm it, which is really handy. So if you're doing Bigfoot research, now let's say you're even a wildlife researcher, these will even pick up vibrations on the ground, right? And what they'll do is they'll give a warning, first on the first vibration they sense. And it's just kind of a squawk, right? And then if it senses another one, then the alarm will go off. But you can set the alarm, I think, different volumes, different types. I've been using numerous ones of these for quite a few years. They're bulletproof. They really are, and they're amazing. Okay. They're also, if you buy a couple of these, they're under $30 for 2. It's an Amazon package they have. You can use these in all sorts of places. It doesn't have to be for Bigfoot research. You can guard your RV, right? You just Velcro it to the wall of your RV or a window. You can do your truck, your car, your bike, your motorcycle. So you can do all sorts of things. I think they're cool. I think they can really help. You could also put them in an object and place it on your picnic table, for instance.
Yeah, the picnic table.
Or, on your cooler lid. I mean, I can go on and on. Use your imagination. These are really cool. So, but a lot of people say, oh, yeah, it would be really cool if we had vibration alarms, and they're thinking too deep. We'll just get one that they use for bikes and motorcycles, and they are really sensitive. Dumb it down, get something cheap. Don't spend a ton of money. Experiment with them. If you love them, you need more, go buy more. They're cheap. Okay. And with that, now we can bring David on.
Hey, David.
Howdy. How are you guys tonight?
You can get rid of the alarms. Oh, there we go. It's all you, David. Take it away.
All right. Well, tonight I thought maybe I'd talk a little bit more in depth about spectrograms and the bioacoustic method of study, and pair it with probably the most obscure possible unknown sound that I call it's a trimorpheme. It's 3 utterances that I call the whoa hubbub. And Alex, if you could throw up
the whoa what, David? David, the whoa what?
Whoa hubbub. That's about as close as I can tell you what I am hearing.
Okay.
It may not be accurate because our ear is fallible, but that's something that I just picked up on.
All right.
And
Let's
the
hear the
first
sound.
time I record, yeah.
Why don't we
well,
hear
let
it
me,
first, David,
okay.
and then you can break it down.
Okay.
All right, here we go, guys.
Now, to kind of tell you how obscure this vocalization is, I recorded it in the first time I got it, captured it was in 2007. And it wasn't until 6 years later at another study site that was 30 miles away, as the crow flies, I captured it again. And I recognized it right away by sound, but it was the pairing of the sight of the vocalization, the visual, that is important. Let's play cut number 2 and 2A.
2 and 2A. Okay. All right. And then 2A.
So when I heard that, and then I quickly looked at it in a spectrogram and realized that the visual matched the audio and visual of the first time I captured that vocalization. Like I said, it was a time distance of 6 years and, like I said, 30 miles apart. But there's a connection now that I have, and it's a little bit easier to talk and convince somebody that you got something when you can compare it visually. It's easier for us to look at that and go, yeah, that looks like the same thing. Alex, could you play cut 3 and 3A? It's
Yeah, sure.
It's these two vocalizations paired right next to each other. They
Wow. They're the same.
Yeah,
Wow.
that's that was a real fun realization. And then started because I could visually identify it now as I'm going through the process of analyzing recordings. If I see this visually, I know what it's going to sound like, and I know what I've got. Let's see. Let's play cut number 4 and 4A. So that was recorded in 2011. Not well, I would say probably another 30 miles in another direction. And it is very, very similar. So I'm also getting this all across the country, which is, it kind of ties it all together for me. What really put it all together was this last year. I believe I recorded, and it very well could be the same vocalizer as the first one that we played, because it was close to that location that I first recorded it. So it could be the same individual that I got in 2023, which would have been, what's that, 13 years difference, maybe even more.
What
Yeah.
animals have you compared this to, David?
Well, it's so rare that it stands on its own. It's not an owl. That would be probably the first default that people will go to. But the vocalization is so rare that it's just not an owl. So
Have you compared it
I
to
don't know.
the lynx and
Go ahead.
bobcat and so on? Have you compared it to lynx?
Oh,
and
sure. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. No, nothing makes this particular sound.
No,
And
it's really weird.
it's also a trimorpheme. It's three utterances. It's proto language.
Wow. Can you show us? I don't know if you're. I would imagine Alex is in control here. Can you take
Yes, he is.
your mouse, Alex? Can you get your mouse on there so we can see your mouse? Okay. So show Alex where these three utterances are on the line.
Okay. It's real easy to spot the first one. It's the one down below. If you go straight up, Alex, you can put your cursor on the red. Right?
Is it right
the
here?
one below? Right.
The
Right
little
there.
one, yeah.
Yeah, the
dash.
little
Yeah.
one. That's the first utterance, and then it shifts up higher in resonance, and so it's a rising vocalization. But there's two more utterances in that bar, what you're seeing that goes across there, and it's a little bit easier to see on a larger screen. But that's where listening to it, you can hear the two out of their utterances. So that's why I have it in a 3-word utterance up above. I call it the whoa hub up, because that to me sounds what it's saying.
Now that we've had you explain it, let's listen to it just one more time.
Okay, let's listen to cut number 6, because that's all of them put together.
Oh, great.
So let me pull that up. And 6.
Now, those are from all across North America, and you can see that there are some differences, but it is essentially the same vocalization type.
Yeah, absolutely. It'd be basically
that's
like
all across
a
North
human
America.
yelling. David, be kind of like a human yelling, you are a, something.
Yeah, yeah.
It's weird. Yeah, no, I definitely feel you can convince me that they're all extremely similar, like almost the same.
Yeah,
sure.
I wanted to showcase the similarities first, because there is variations all across North America, like dialects, if you will. There are some in the South that do it a little bit differently, but it's close enough that I can recognize it's the same thing, same type.
Wow.
Of
this is new.
trimorphine.
This is a new one. Couple of things.
Yeah.
One, to remind everybody, David will have a show on the Untold Radio Network called Unknown Sounds. And it's coming soon, is all we can tell you. We're waiting to get the book done first.
Right.
And when the book is done and out, then the podcast is next. So it's coming. So I want to remind everybody. Somebody already mentioned they were really excited. I think it was Jay, said he was really excited for the show to come out, as I am.
It'll be
so,
fun.
It will be. It's going to be a monthly show. Monthly show, David.
We'll see. I'd like to probably do pre-recording just because of my schedule, being retired and being. My wife now is retired, and so we want to get around and travel around. So I may want to do like 4 sit downs with people, like in a week or something. Get 4 programs, then I'm done for the month, kind of a thing. So we'll see.
All right,
we'll see how it goes. We'll see what the interest is, and people are recording stuff. I got probably 6 or 7 people sending me stuff this week alone.
I wanted to ask you about the newest one that I sent you of the Buzz. And I have not heard it because it's a format I can't listen to yet.
Yeah, I can't listen to it. I can't listen to it.
Okay, I'll have them resend that. I'll have them resend it.
If they could put it in an MP3 file.
Yeah, I will.
Yeah, perfect.
All right. We'll get to that. Thanks, David. And we'll talk soon.
All right.
Thanks.
Take care. Good evening.
Take care, David.
All right. We are done and through and ready to bring Tommy on. So TD Mischke, he's an American writer, musician, podcaster, former radio talk show host for WCCO, right? The big powerhouse AM station here that can be, I guess, listened to in like 20, 30 states. And he was formerly employed by them. And then he was a weekly columnist for City Pages. For 17 years, he hosted the Mischke broadcast on AM 1500 KSTP radio. His show featured quirky, regular callers, stream of consciousness, humor, experts, blah, blah, blah. I was a guest on his show numerous times, which is how we met.
Awesome.
And Tommy has been the winner of the Best AM Radio Personality Award, I think, 9 times.
9 times. Way to
9
go.
times. Yeah, so
Awesome.
let's not wait any longer. Let's bring on the legendary TD Mischke.
Hello.
Hey, hello.
There he is. You don't look legendary. You just look like a guy in his library.
I'm just an average guy. That's the problem with radio. That theater of the mind messes with you.
Yeah.
We were never meant to be seen.
Oh, geez. Yeah, that's a different world now with YouTube and simulcasting on YouTube.
Well,
But anyhow, it's good to see
you. I do a podcast now, and I don't even consider video. I don't even entertain that notion.
Oh, my gosh.
You guys, what you do couldn't be more foreign to me.
Yeah, I suppose. Yeah. Well, you're old school radio guy. I mean, there's no doubt. And you became we got to tell people how you became a radio guy. Weren't you a call-in guy?
I was a regular caller. I was a character on a show, an afternoon drive show. I was the Phantom Caller. The Phantom Caller would go on a show, but he'd never stay on a show long enough to be talked to. By the time anybody wanted to talk to him, he'd hang up. So I was always using a different name, calling, getting on, saying whatever I wanted to say and hanging up before they could engage me. And I did it for years. And they eventually liked it enough to invite me on as a sidekick.
Well, but that was a huge deal. But what did you ever expect that to happen? Were you end up as the host?
No, it was so bizarre the whole way it worked. I mean, first I did it for a couple years, and then the guy got hired away to Chicago, and I moved on with my life. And I was just freelance writing and doing odd jobs. And 5 years later, he moves back to the Twin Cities to start radio again. And he asks me to help him find a house. He's blind. He doesn't know anything about neighborhoods in the Twin Cities. He's been blind since birth.
Don Vogel?
Don Vogel. And I help him find a house. And later on, he's complaining about his producer, who's also kind of a sidekick. And I say, if you ever tire of that person, I'd do it. And he said, well, that would be beneath you. He didn't think highly of sidekicks and producers. I said, beneath me? I'm a freelance writer. I'm, going to Pastor Paul's food giveaways on Sundays. Come on, man. So he ended up trying me out and liking me. I was basically an Ed McMahon, laughing at his jokes. And from there, I got my own show in the evening, and the rest is history.
Well, I have to tell the audience, and they're gonna realize this pretty quick. You are the fastest wit of anybody, probably maybe on the planet. You have a wit that's just every time I've worked with you, like doing some comedy thing, and we're gonna share some funny stuff tonight. I was just always in shock, going, how did he come up with all that stuff?
Hey, there was a kind of a manic quality to me in my radio days. I'm not entirely sure how healthy that was. Comedians generally are pretty messed up. And I actually think back on those days and I think, it's a double-edged sword, that brain of mine. it simultaneously allowed me to just go off on some crazy tangents, but at the same time sort of did me in periodically. And I really wonder if I could ever do anything like that again. I mean, my podcast that I do now is so different from those days. In those days, it was live, it was a high wire act. Callers were calling, and you had to take these calls and turn them into something magic, and you had seconds to do it because you didn't want to bore the audience. And everything was just happening spontaneously, and you had these plates in the air. And I mean, the craziest thing about talk radio is you invited the world in, and the world has no credentials. I always used to say to people, Dan Rather, when he was doing the 5:30 news, never said, "What do you think, America? 651-4329." He's not getting the plumber to call in and share airtime.
Right.
So we not only let people on, I had a rule that anybody who was kicked off any other show was welcome on my show. So I got some pretty out there folks.
Yeah, you had some regulars, and I'm not sure how to kick this show off, but I thought let's start it out with the Mischke poem. Is that okay if we play that?
Yeah, this is a poem that was actually written and recited by a listener
Yeah.
after years of listening to my show, and it sort of captures it.
Alex, do you have that queued up? Can you run the Mischke poem? Listen to this.
The memories are golden there. My daddy's pipe, my mama's chair. My grandma's braid was done with care, and on the wireless was Mischke. My mom'd sit us on the rug and keep us quiet with a hug. My grandpa'd laugh, and the kids would shrug at the shenanigans of Mischke. Jean said Tommy was the kind of man that she would like to find. My uncle told her never mind, or there'll be no more of Mischke. Later on, in schoolboy days, when FM was the latest craze, I didn't care or change my ways, and my dates all learned of Mischke. More recently, my wife would scoff and yell to turn that joker off, so I'd grab a smoke and play it soft out on the deck with Mischke. I met him once at the state fair. I was just outside the beer tent there. I heard that giggle in the air, and I knew that it was Mischke. If he was old or young, I couldn't see, but he was different than I thought he'd be. When he handed me a Swisher Sweet, well, he seemed a good egg, Mischke. I called the wife with courage high and said I'd be home by and by. My luck was too good to deny. I was hanging out with Mischke. We smoked our stogies in the night as I kept buying him Cold Spring Lights, and before I knew my wrong from right, I was about half baked with Mischke. He borrowed $5 and went away. I lost my lunch in a pile of hay. Who drove me home? Well, I can't say, but I don't think it was Mischke. I woke up in the lawn and saw my wife. I couldn't stand up to save my life, and then from her robe she pulled a knife and started screaming, Mischke. I was up and running, filled with fear, and kitchen things flying by my ear. The wife was yelling loud and clear, you can just go live with Mischke. Well, that was many years ago, and still I'm feeling pretty low. And if I had a radio, well, it wouldn't be tuned to Mischke. The man cost me my home and pride. He left a void a mile wide. He made me want to run and hide and curse the name of Mischke.
Oh my gosh.
Although I can't afford the beers, I've waited by that tent for years. But it's not about revenge or tears. I want something else from Mischke. See, I don't care much about the wife or the shambles of my so-called life, and I want no pity for my strife. But I want that 5 from Mischke.
All right.
One more line.
The sun is shining bright, somewhere the hearts of men are light, and somewhere heroes do things right, and somewhere else is Mischke.
Gosh. That's a classic, and it's so true. I can vouch personally how true that poem is.
Yeah, it was Michael Krauser. The wild thing about that was one night they said, phone call line 3 on the air. I just took it. Hi, you're on KSTP. And he went into it. And when he finished, he hung up. Not wildly different than my Phantom Caller days.
Oh,
And I said into the microphone, hoping he was listening, if you're hearing this right now, whoever just called and delivered that, I can't have that be the last time I ever hear that. Could you possibly come into the station and record it? And my fear was he was gone, but he did come in later that week and record it. So
Well, that's a classic. The guy sounds like Paul Williams to me.
Paul Williams, the little songwriter?
Yeah, that's what that guy sounds.
Wow.
That's what his voice sounds like.
You got to be the only guy in the next 10 years who will make a Paul Williams reference. I mean, you're going back a ways to obscurity. He was big in the 70s during Love Boat. But by the way, speaking of worms, I'm speaking of names. Within 5 seconds of this show, I hear, "Hi, buttworm." And I don't know your show, but I said, well, they told me to be there at 7. There's 2 other guys. I know that's not their name. And I'm thinking, are we going with that for me tonight?
No, there's somebody in our chat named Buttworm.
He calls himself that.
I'm making him famous. He's like one of your callers. Instead, we have chat people. They're in chat. And they can say what's on their mind. There he is. See, there's Buttworm.
Term of endearment.
You see him on the screen. There's Buttworm.
Well, yeah, now that I see him, it all makes sense. But no, I find it odd that is the name he's going with. I'm trying to see if we could go lower than that in the evolutionary world.
That's as low as it gets right there. That's it. Buttworm.
He's a humble guy.
Yeah, he is. He's apparently a very nice man.
I
Or
hope,
it could be a woman. I don't know.
I hope mom and dad aren't listening. I mean, they put in an effort to raise this child, and I'm sure they gave him a nice name.
Yeah,
But
and now
he's not
he's
using it.
Buttworm.
Yeah, all right, fair enough.
Yeah, anyhow, it says my wife named me that because I'm always up her butt about stuff. There you go. Okay.
Wow. I'm all of a sudden thinking about, romantic intimacy, and that as the term being used. I don't know. I'm struggling with it, but I'll get over it.
Oh my God. So okay, so Tom, just so you know, Tommy he's into Bigfoot. He's into the Bigfoot topic.
Mm-hmm.
Very much. In fact, he just completed a TD Mischke road show.
Yeah.
Edited, beautiful. They're like audio documentaries. Right?
Yeah, what you guys are doing now is a lot more like live radio.
Yeah.
Yeah. What I do now in the podcasting world and what I've been doing the last 10 years is more like, I don't know, it's more like putting together a magazine article or something,
Yeah, I guess. But
so I spent a lot of time on the Bigfoot one. I went to the Dakotas and talked to, you'll know the women, I won't remember their names.
Well, you must have met with Jen and the she squatchers.
Yep, I met with them. Then there were a couple other. Well, you were on there, and then there was also.
I'm in there.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah,
okay.
I found audio of you talking about your original experience that got you into this subject. And then there's the woman that they reference who's got actually, you're the one who told me about her. The woman who's got Zoo Book.
Amy Boo.
Yeah, so she's on it too.
Oh, cool. Yeah, Amy's a charmer. Yeah, no, it's Zoo Book is quite a. Put it this way, it's been quite a successful undertaking of getting anonymous scientists from all different walks of life. Some of them had their own Bigfoot experiences to meet and talk about Bigfoot.
Struck me from doing that show, and I don't know that we're ever going to get past this. I mean, you may be more optimistic than I. People who have the experience, it's over, finished, done. It's real. It's legit. It doesn't matter what anybody says anymore. And then there are the people who haven't had the experience, and the Atlantic Ocean sits between them in terms of a chasm. And, it'll probably always be thus until that magical day that if you'd have told me we wouldn't have had that magical day by 2024, I would have said that's impossible. It's impossible. If you'd have said to me in 1995, by 2024, we wouldn't have clear footage. I would have said but I also would have said in 1972, when the war on cancer was declared, that it'd be gone from this world by 85. So there's a lot of things that linger on, but
yeah, and the common cold.
I now believe we're never going to get it. For some reason, I think that there are forces at work that will keep us from ever having definitive proof. And the forces at work may be the creature itself.
You could be right. We don't know. We have no idea.
We have no idea, but the longer we go without it, as a camera guy, give me anything else in the world you wouldn't get footage of by now.
Well, the giant squid's a great example.
But
Okay.
you got it.
Yeah, I got it, but it's not the greatest footage, and no one's been able to repeat it. That's the funny part. And as time ticks on, we're going on almost 10 years now since we got that, and no one's got it. Lots of money's been tried. And I'm wondering, what if another 50, 60 years goes by, and that's still the only, and it becomes like the Patterson footage of the squid. You know what I mean?
But nobody says that I'm aware of that the giant squid doesn't exist.
That's true. Yeah. No, we do know for sure they exist. But
so that's a gigantic difference.
Yeah, no pun. It is, but it is different. We kind of know that Bigfoot exists too because we have so many footprints. We have so many fingerprints. We have so many hairs. We have 10,000 documented sightings.
We don't have any hairs that are definitive.
Well, yeah, I would argue that because their morphology is completely different than humans. It's thinner. It has possibly even more scales around the outer diameter. It's tapered at the end, meaning it's never been cut. How many people are running around the woods have never once had a haircut? I don't know. So there have to be humans out there that have never once had their haircut. And then you have the pigmentation is different, right?
How come there isn't more being done with the nests out west?
Yeah, exactly. And there was only so much they could do. Shane Corson in the Olympic project, which David Ellis is a part of, they really did a good job in bringing zoologists and primate experts and gathering up samples for environmental DNA, photographing all of the how these nests were all woven and put together, and in an area that was really secluded. There's no way there were bear nests. No, zero chance. They were. So what else makes a nest that's that big? And numerous of them using a plant that's very antibacterial, which is interesting. I don't know. But at some point, the original nest starts dying, wilting, turning to dust. So they're going back to dust again. And obviously because of all the disturbances, those creatures probably have moved on. And I believe, and David, you can chime in on this, aren't they leaving that area alone now and hoping they'll come back to that area again? That's as I remember. I could be wrong.
Why do you think once you have things like nests and once you have the technology we have for video, why do you think so many people can have a personal sighting, but we can't get good video?
Well, I'm working on that really hard, and I believe it's going to take a multi-step effort. Most people that try to get footage, it's one step. They put a camera up. I believe it's going to take 5 or 6 steps in order to fool them, because I believe they are very much human-like in their intelligence, if not, and in their environment, they probably have 5 times more knowledge than you or I would have in the woods. But we're getting close, and I feel I have a good chance again this coming August. We're going to the area where we know they came and stood above our cameras, but there was no moon. There was thick cloud cover, no stars. So we had no way to light them. We're not going to use LEDs because that's one of the things they seem to be afraid of. Mm-hmm. So we did not have LEDs, but we had low light cameras that would have got beautiful shots, Tom, had there would have been a moon or stars or whatever. So the real thing is now this trip we're going during a moon, and we're just praying for good weather. It doesn't cover the moon and, give us zero light again. You could not see the hand in front of your face. And so these things came at least twice and stood on our cameras. So at least twice.
So you must believe that the greatest fluke in the history of wildlife coverage is the Patterson film, because primitive technology and some yahoos go out. I mean, they weren't Nat Geo guys.
No.
And they get something that's never been close to duplicated with the most incredible technology on Earth. It's so bizarre to me.
Well, okay, but let's break that down. They had a spring line camera. Roger had practiced with that fixed focus, so you don't have to mess with the focus. You don't have to mess with batteries. You don't have to turn a switch on. So it was just bam, on, running instantly. And the fixed focus and the fact it was actually way better than a 3.6 millimeter lens. I mean, they had a 50 millimeter lens on there or near that. But now we're dealing with cell phones that are really wide, and they're worthless, great up close, but worthless when you get beyond 50 feet. Everything looks tiny and little, and, they're wide angle lenses. But and they were using horseback, and they were by a noisy stream, and there was this huge log pile that concealed the creature, that concealed them approaching the creature. Then the noisy water, the Bluff Creek was running really quick, and that was causing a lot of noise. And they're on horseback to cover their scent and sound. Okay, so there's your multi-step. Think about it. Horses, the river, even though they didn't build the big log pile, it was there. So that's another step. The fact that Roger had practiced, another step. Another step was the fact they were on horseback. So it was a perfect storm. And then, of course, they were getting reports of footprints from logging crews in the area, and it was very much a wilderness area. So it was kind of the perfect storm.
Your take on northern Minnesota Indian reservation residents routinely seeing them. The two women, the she-squatchers, told me that. Now, is it a secret within the tribe on the reservation? What's going on there?
I'm not familiar with that case. But generally, I hear about these cases where they're having almost habituation type sightings, and almost in every case, they refuse to film them because they're saying, well, if I bring a camera with me, they won't come around. I hear this over and over. Or if I put a camera up, they don't come around, So there you go. And you're just, you're not, it'd be like feeding oats to a dead horse. I can't convince these people to let me up there.
Hey, I'm sorry to interrupt, guys. Mischke, could you turn your speaker down as low as you're comfortable with? I'm just getting a little bit of feedback.
Yeah, I forgot. Just a tiny bit. So you can hear us.
Yeah. Just like physically on your computer.
You guys are going to kill me. I'm not joking. Oh, I know where I got to do that. Okay. There's no simple way for me to... I haven't touched my speaker in forever, but I'm going to do it right now.
Otherwise, you can do it digitally.
7 years since I've done this. Let's see, where are you?
And, to go on about the Patterson, I think TD believes the Patterson footage is real. Correct, Tommy? Or maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah. I have not. It has not been. My view is it has not been discredited.
Right. So, and with that, I mean, if somebody came forward and suddenly actually produced that exact suit and could show me every feature that's on the original film, then I'd have to walk away, going, am I ever stupid? I got fooled. I got taken in. But that's what it would take to get me to not believe in the Patterson footage at this point. And then you have guys like Bill Munns who were in the industry, who have gone through, and I've actually hired to review and try to debunk the Patterson footage, and they've come back going, oh man, that thing's a real deal. And this is why. One, their eyes wouldn't even fit through wouldn't even be able to see through a costume. Two, there's only 1 in 5,000 people have a torso that long. There's no way to get a suit to bend where the creature bends its elbows. That wouldn't even work. It's way off ratio. The IM index is off. So, I think most people, literally, if you're familiar with wildlife, familiar with what reality looks like, you're going to think, damn, that's the real thing. The question is, why haven't we got more footage? Well, the answer might be, once again, going back to film non-electrical cameras. We don't know what senses these creatures have. Maybe they can sense electricity. It's been suspected, and they could be right. Who am I to say they're not? Eric Sorensen, who's probably listening right now, developed a very simple, I asked him to develop me a trigger that could trigger a film camera based on a small vine, a natural, take a figure 4 type trap, if you will, right? That will just snap and the film camera will be instantly on and running with 16 millimeter, maybe even 35. He came through with flying colors. He designs and 3D prints this really cool trigger trap. And we're willing to give it to anybody out there that within the sound of my voice now or 10 years from now, we'll give you the blueprints to do that. You can still buy film cameras.
You remember the family that was having all sorts of experiences out in Washington? At one point, I was talking to you about going out there.
Yeah, that was years ago.
Years ago. It was routine for them to have encounters.
Yeah, I remember.
There's where how about a camera there? But maybe that's just maybe that passes then after
and
a while.
I actually financed. It was funny you mentioned that because I financed. It was a project Tom Paul headed. I can't remember the name of the project, but I actually paid for a number of cameras for that property, and there was nothing that happened. Came back a zero.
Yeah.
So it is frustrating. But not as frustrating as if you're an exterminator.
Oh, there's our segue.
Because that's when it's really frustrating. Hold on, Alex. It gets really frustrating. So
we better set this up.
I don't know if we're going to want to set this up. So me and Tommy and a film crew we're filming a pilot called Mischke Madness. And obviously Tom would have been the presenter and the host, the creative genius behind these pranks. But the idea was to basically prank people with hidden cameras, far more sophisticated than what you've seen on TV in the past. There's only one Tom Mischke. I don't think anybody could have done a better job than you. And so maybe this podcast, we could still get it going, Tom.
Well, it's interesting. The beauty of it was it was unrehearsed stuff, unscripted.
Yep.
I was just going to wing it in these cases, but we were going to have a premise in which I would wing it. And the premise that was my favorite was there's something in the wall of my home. It's making noise. I need an exterminator. That's it. That's as far as we went.
Yep.
And the exterminator's going to come over. The guy who came over had been doing it for 40 years. The only thing that we've set up, besides the cameras, is in the wall we have filled a sandwich baggie with fake blood, which will allow me at some point to reach up into the wall saying, I think it's up in this area, squeeze the baggie and have the blood run down my arm, proving that there's something dangerous and real there.
Yes.
That's
teeth.
it. That's
with
it.
Teeth.
And the only thing the guy coming over has in his head is probably another squirrel. He's thinking it's a squirrel.
Yep.
That's it. And then it's just whatever happens. All I know is that I hope I can think on my feet fast enough and have weird things happen that will come into my head as we go that will keep the gag going. I just want to keep it going somehow. Get them maybe to up the ante a little bit and think it might be something bigger than a squirrel. But I did not anticipate what he would ultimately guess it was. Nobody.
We have it. Well, just hang on, Tom. We actually have a compilation here of all of these skits, and it's been compressed into 3 minutes. We have the also, if you want to explain, set up the haircut and the music lessons.
So the concept of the haircut, good God, this one I came up with was my hair follicles have live nerves that are as painful to cut as if you were cutting into my skin. A haircut to me is excruciating because each hair follicle has a nerve that, directly connects to my brain, and I am a freak of nature, but a guy whose haircuts are as painful as someone being tortured in a North Korean prison.
Yeah, and this is what he tells the hairdresser. And she buys it. She totally buys it.
And I said, the U of M, University of Minnesota, is studying me, and they're sending a film crew to document my haircut. Those were not hidden.
Well, there was also, we did I don't know if I have footage of it. I don't in this, but we went to a fortune teller and you started telling her fortune.
That was another premise, and I wasn't sure I could pull it off, but my attempt was going to be, will you do a reading for me? And as she's doing the reading, based on nothing more than my intuition, I was going to start reading her. And what ended up happening is, and I think this is so strange because I don't believe I have any great intuitive sense, I was getting a bunch of things right. Some of them were just obvious. I would listen to her voice and, I'd go into a thing about, I know you've been trying to quit smoking, and I know it's been a struggle and you haven't been able to, and I just want you to know you are finally going to pull that off this year. And she was so relieved, but I was just going off her voice. And there were a few other things. There was a sort of sadness to her, just the way she carried herself. So I talked about the tragedy in her life, and she fed me just enough to where I could follow that line a little further. And eventually she didn't want to charge me and wanted to come back to me routinely for reading.
And then, what was the other one? We did, the music lessons.
Yeah. I had a guy who did in-home piano lessons arrive at my house, and the cameras were all in place, in this case, all hidden. And the idea with this guy was, when he sat down, he was going to have the most unusual student he's ever had in his life. I started out by saying, I've been working for 3 straight weeks every day, hours a day, on the G note. And the idea was I was hitting one key, trying to get it just right for 3 weeks. And I really wanted to move on to one other key on the piano. This would have been about a 5 lifetime approach to learning the piano. And I was reluctant to move on to the next key. And how do you do the next key? I've got that G down. I can.
Poor guy was freaking out.
You got to get the G spot down first.
Anyhow, I think we've given enough setup here. Let's just go ahead and play this. And please enjoy, and if you like it, let us know. All right, go ahead. Let's go.
If I told you what I saw, I don't even want to describe it because you're going to think I'm crazy.
I actually have nerve endings in my hair follicles. Woo! That's a new sheriff coming to town. It's got a head and arms. It doesn't have legs like a regular animal. It's got arms. It was upright, and it had arms. What? No. Took out some money from my 401k, bought a bunch of instruments. I just figure when you first get a piano, you don't know how to play all the notes, you pick one. And I was playing this one pretty much endlessly, pretty much repeatedly. The nerves stayed in the head.
Let me try it. Oh, that's not the one. Dang it. Did I get that wrong? All right. Shut it up. Put something in front of it. Look at that. And then you add that into this. You can octave. Can you octave slide it? No, that hurts the whole.
My dad got one of those once. He had a buzz cut to go into the military, and it killed him because he had the same thing I had. And you just can't shave a guy's head and do it that rapidly. It was like they went at him with a chainsaw.
I'm not staying up here. It's out! It's out! That is some smoking good stuff. Let me try to see if I can play that. I'm digging it! I can play this son of a bitch! That was a bad one. I got him in the basement! Down here! Come on down! Down here! Congratulations. You've been Mischke.
TV show.
They all go on the run for it.
There you go. And back then, the cameras, the hidden cameras weren't that good. We had to really put tiny cameras. But man, let's talk about the exterminator. He'd
be upstairs, and when he was upstairs, I would throw things around downstairs and say it got out, and it ran through the house, knocked over 5 or 6 chairs, knocked over a table, and went back up into the wall. Then he'd come downstairs, and I'd go upstairs, and I'd say it came out up here, and I'd knock about 9 or 10 things over. And every time I'd say it's almost a blur when it goes by, but this is the description I can give you. And he said, you know what? Sounds to me like what we're dealing with is I can't even say it with a straight face. Sounds to me like what we're dealing with is a baby Sasquatch. He actually said that, a 40-year veteran of the pest control industry determined that before his career was ending, he was going to get the credit.
Oh, hey, Dad, you're muted.
Yeah, because you kept saying, oh, it's walking on 2 legs. I don't know what it is. And it's hairy. I mean, you never once said the word little Bigfoot.
No, I wanted him to tell me what.
That's great. That's great.
But he kept coming. He'd go out to his truck, Alex. He'd come in with a bigger net. The nets kept getting bigger.
He kept getting bigger.
Yeah, I thought at one time he brought in a rifle. Am I wrong about that? I thought he brought a rifle.
I don't remember. But it was. I know the nets kept getting bigger because I couldn't be there. I couldn't be in the room.
Right.
But we'll have to get that edited, Alex, and actually posted, which we will do. We'll get that edited, and the Bigfoot one at least, and completely posted up on the Untold Radio Network.
That'd be great.
Sound like a plan? It's funny.
There's lots of people who have heard these stories we're telling tonight who have said, well, where can I see it? And I said, well, it was originally shot for a television special that never panned out, so you can't see it.
Yeah.
But in the years that have gone by, this is a long time ago. I believe we're pre-YouTube, aren't we, with this thing?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It's a long time
So
ago.
in the years that have gone by, there are now opportunities for people to see this stuff. Yeah. I think a lot of people don't even believe me.
Well, let's get them. We'll talk and we'll get everything up and posted. So we'll get posted. And if you ever want to do any more, let me know. They were so fun.
They were fun. You know, I thought afterward, what a career Alan Funt had. I mean, talk about the original Candid Camera. Was that the greatest job in the world? Just goofing on people for money?
Yeah.
Just, and his were well thought out. It wasn't as weird as some of the other stuff got later. I just think he had a great gig. It was so much fun doing it because it was play. It was like play. It was like you're 13 years old and you and your buddy are going off with the camera and a couple ideas. It didn't take 1,000 pieces of equipment. You know, it was your cameras and whatever the world presented. A hair salon, a house with a piano, a house where you could say something's in the wall.
Do we have any other clips, Alex? I know we have audio clips, but do we have any video clips?
So we have the haircut in more depth. And then obviously, so Mischke sent over a couple audio clips. One's the Big German Bank. We got Great Grandma. And then we have the wreck of Edmund Fitzgerald.
Do we have the Maple Lake? Is that Great Grandma?
Yep.
Let's go ahead and play that. It is absolutely. This is just Tom Mischke trying to get a damn address.
This is a 95-year-old. Before we play it, this is a 95-year-old regular caller to my show who I nicknamed Great Grandma because I already had another woman in her 80s who was Grandma. So I made this one Great Grandma, and she just on this particular night wanted to send me something and wanted my address. That was it.
All right, let's go ahead and play it.
So I have this card, and I'm going to mail it to you.
All right.
But I need your address.
All right. I'll have Clyde give you my address.
Your name is Tom?
My name's Tom.
What?
Oh, you want the address? All right. 27.
No, wait a minute. 27?
Generally, producers do this, and then we save time. 2792.
2792? What's after 92?
Maplewood Drive.
Wood Drive.
Yeah. St. Paul. St. Paul.
Maple.
St. Paul. 55109.
What?
55109.
55109?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What is that?
That's my address.
Maple. Is it Maple?
Maplewood.
Or did you say Maplewood?
I did say Maplewood.
Maplewood 55109.
So you got 2792 Maplewood Drive.
Yeah, I have that.
Yeah, and then it's St. Paul 55109.
All right.
And we're in Minnesota.
And after that, 55109.
Yeah, better put Minnesota in there.
What?
Better throw Minnesota in there somewhere. The state. Did you get that?
All right.
Oh boy.
Tom.
Yeah.
What is your last name?
Mischke.
Spell it.
M-I-S.
M-I-S.
Chke.
Tom Mischke.
Yeah.
2792 Maplewood Drive, Maplewood.
No, St. Paul. No. 2792 Maplewood Drive, and then St. Paul, Minnesota.
Maple, Minnesota.
No, not Maple, Minnesota. St. Paul, Minnesota.
Where do I put that 551?
At the end. This is the order you want it in, Great Grandma. Ready?
That's the zip code?
That's the zip code.
Why didn't you tell me?
Oh, for God's sake. Now listen, I'm going to go through it one more time because I think this thing's going to Bismarck at this point.
Tom
Yes?
Mischke.
Yeah.
2792 Maplewood Drive, 55109.
You forgot St. Paul?
Minnesota.
After Maplewood Drive, put St. Paul, Minnesota.
Maple, Minnesota.
St. Paul, Minnesota, not Maple,
She
Minnesota.
kept saying Maple, Minnesota.
No, not Maple. St. Paul.
M-A-P-L-E.
No, St. Paul, P-A-U-L. I'm going to give it to you one more time.
Tom Mischke. 2792 Maplewood Drive. Maple.
No,
No.
Maplewood, Minnesota.
No, just St. Paul. Actually, fine. Maplewood that'll work too. Maplewood, Minnesota. Fine. 55109.
M-A-P-L-E.
Oh no.
55109.
What? Not 55109, is it?
That's the zip code.
What? Is it 109? All right, now listen. Tom Mischke, 2792 Maplewood Drive, 55109, Minnesota.
All right, I'm going to help you. I'm going to help you.
Now look, after 2792 Maplewood Drive, what do I put down?
After that, put St. Paul.
What?
St. Paul.
Maplewood, Paul?
Maplewood Paul.
Maplewood Drive.
Okay.
2792 Maplewood
Since
Drive.
you want Maplewood in there, we're going to put Maplewood in there. All right. This is how it should read. You ready? Tom Mischke.
Where do I get a new page?
No, use the same one. You had it. We're just fine tuning it.
What have you been drinking?
What have I been drinking?
What?
She got a nerve asking me.
Your
that.
address is what?
After Tom Mischke,
Yeah.
write KSTP Radio.
What?
KSTP.
TSCP.
Yeah, that's the station.
What is that?
Forget it. Just write Tom Mischke,
Oh
2792 Maplewood Drive.
2792. No, wait. Maple.
I got to give out the call letters more often. She doesn't know what KSTP is.
Drive,
Maplewood, Minnesota.
Maplewood, Minnesota.
Yeah.
M-A-P-L-E. Wood,
Wood.
Minnesota.
Mhm.
O-T-A, Minnesota.
And then the zip code.
All right.
5510109.
55109.
Yeah, now give me the whole thing from the top.
55109.
No,
What
from-
else after that?
Yeah, the whole thing, everything.
Tom,
Mischke.
spell it for me.
Oh boy. M-I-S.
Mischke.
Yeah, no, I'm spelling it now. M-I-S.
You're trying to spell Mischke.
Yes, I am, because you asked me to.
M-I-S-C-H-E.
C-H-K-E.
C-H-E.
C-H-K-E.
M-I-S-C-H-E-T. Answer me.
M-I-S.
Because if I get you someday, I'm going to take your pants down. I'm going to spank you.
Looking forward to it. I'm going to spell it again. Listen.
M-I-S-C-H-E.
K-E. M-I-S-C-H-K-E.
All right, I got that.
All right.
2792 Maplewood Drive, Maplewood, Minnesota. 55109.
Hot diggity dogski. You got it, great grandma. Woo! Wow.
Well, there you go.
That was painful for me to relive.
I can imagine. I mean, this is real radio.
Yeah, I was going to send her to Clyde, my producer, and I thought I'll get this out of the way real quickly here, and it stole a chunk of very expensive radio time.
Oh man. There was a time and this is what Tommy would do when things didn't go right. Is he would just do things like one time I was supposed to be on his show and I stood him up, not on purpose. I happened to be at my workshop, which was at that time a Faraday cage. I couldn't get it. It didn't ring. So he was going to call me for the interview. Okay. But I knew a time, but I didn't show up. So Tommy goes on and starts doing the funeral thing for Hajicek. And it went on for like 2 hours. And I have that recording where you're just constantly playing funeral music and all these things, you're reading my effigy. And then some guy calls in, he goes, I'll pretend I'm Doug. And so you interviewed him.
Yeah, it was the wild, wild west back in those days. There were no rules at night. I mean, there were supposed to be rules. The FCC had rules, but we violated all of them. And I mean, there was a night. It's a well-known night. A lot of people will struggle with this, but I started out the show. I wasn't quite ready. I didn't have everything in order, and there was about 16 seconds of dead air. And I was so intrigued by the dead air that I thought maybe we'll go another 16 seconds. And that was interesting to me. And by the time I went another 16 after that, a call was coming in. And rather than answer it, which would have been making a sound, I just quietly clicked the button and put the person on the air. And they said, hello? And I didn't say anything. So I was now a good couple minutes into the show without saying anything. And they hung up. People listening called up going, hey, I just heard a caller on the air, but I didn't hear the host. I don't know if his mic is on. And I put that on the air. Never said hello. I just clicked the button quietly. They'd hear the ringing stop and they'd start talking. And I went 2 hours. I never said a word. I did the whole show without saying a word. And the show ended and I never spoke. I wanted to see if it was possible to do an American talk radio show, start to finish, without saying a word. And it is possible.
Well, there were times, to give you an example, there were times where, like, Tommy would go, hey, can you give me a ride home tonight from the station? I get off at whatever. And so we'd show up to pick Tommy up at the station. And then, of course, we'd call and say, oh, we're here. We'd let you know we're here. He'd have us on the air calling him. That's just the way you were. Or we'd be in the parking lot. We'd be having a smoke or something. And then the clock would strike where you're supposed to be on the air and you wouldn't go in. Say, take another ciggy.
Yeah. And they'd have to play the Mischke poem. That poem was used often for when I wasn't around. It'd fill a couple minutes. One time, a 12-year-old girl called my show and was talking to me, and I said, you sound like such a mature and articulate person. Why don't you come on down to the station and take over? So she showed up. Her mother drove her. I gave her the microphone and the headset, and I went home. She did the rest of the show.
Yeah. Well, then when you would do the dead air things, once in a while, I remember you'd hear, maybe it'd be 15 minutes of dead air, and then you'd hear all the furniture falling over and banging like you're trying to rush into the studio.
Yeah.
And then you'd you'd be out of breath, and finally, but after you'd hear glass breaking and all sorts of crap. Yeah.
It was a fun thing to play around with the idea of just audio, because you could create the images in the listeners' minds. And it was often more chaotic, crazed, and weird and out there in their minds by what I was able to create in the way of sound. I loved having that advantage. With video, it's all out there. But with sound, you can create things that make people think something's happening that isn't close to happening.
Yeah.
I killed a guy one time during an ad. We did an ad. It was a jeweler. And I said, I don't know if anybody's ever killed somebody in the middle of an ad. And we had been doing ads where I was getting progressively more annoying to him in each ad. And I said, these ads we're doing that run during the day, these recorded 60-second ads, they're starting to have this tension to them. How about we do an ad where we really get into it, really get into a serious fight, and I knock over everything I can in the studio, create the sense that something really bad has happened. And then I had a secretary come in hearing all the commotion, and it's completely quiet when she comes in, and she goes, my God, what did you do with him? What's wrong with him? And I said, I didn't do anything. He's sleeping. He's napping right now. And she screams and runs out and gets the head of the station. And that was a jewelry store ad That was just based on the idea that our tension and of my annoyance and his annoyance with me came to a point where I said, I think the natural thing is for you to die. But if it were video, what a project that would be, creating a death. Audio, it was fun and easy.
And just so people know, that was just a joke. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I didn't actually kill him. I haven't actually killed anybody.
That's
I
such
started
a
this off saying
confession.
Theater of the mind.
Well, we'd be amiss. I mean, aren't you still working with R.F. Muller Jewelers?
That guy is still working with me after,
how many
years? It's 30 years now. 30 years we've been together. Yeah. And by the way, the ad after I killed him, I'm not joking. I went into the woods along the Mississippi to record my running from the police and police dogs chasing and barking and chasing me through the woods. It was a manhunt because I was wanted for murder. And this was also a 60-second jewelry ad. Intending to sell a wedding ring to a nice young woman. No point whatsoever to why we're chasing this guy and how that's going to sell a diamond ring to a young woman. It just was bizarre.
Yeah. I mean, but you got to realize you are bizarre. I mean,
yes,
we would take trips together. And every time you would leave from the trip, we'd get back to my house and you'd have to get back in your car and go. You always left a whole bunch of crap in my car. That was yours.
Yep.
And I had a permanent box in my garage called Mischke Crap. Well, and it would just get fuller and fuller of this Mischke crap that he would bring.
Let me tell you what is the single most requested bit in my years. It's an interview I did with a guy who created a documentary on the sinking of the Edmund Fitzgerald.
Yeah.
And he was going to be on to talk about the sinking. It was the anniversary. It might have been the 30th anniversary, the 25th anniversary. And I decided when I interviewed him, I was not going to ask my questions in a normal voice. I was going to ask them to the tune of Gordon Lightfoot's song. Oh. Every question was going to be real, but it was going to be sung. He didn't know this. He comes on. It was his 7th interview of the day. He started with Morning Drive Radio somewhere in Minnesota. I was the late night guy at the end of his day. He just wanted to get through it and get home.
Yeah, well, let's play a clip of this.
If I was going to sing the questions, he was going to put up with it. He just wanted to go home, but he doesn't know I'm going to do this. And listen what happens.
So are we good to play it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, let's hit it.
Gumbinger. He's responsible for a documentary called The Mystery of the Edmund Fitzgerald. Tonight, ladies and gentlemen, is the eve of the wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald. Tomorrow, the anniversary, November 10th, when the gales of November came early. Welcome, Mr. Gumbinger, to our talk show. It's a pleasure to have you on with us.
Is this Gordon or Joe?
This has interested me for many a year. Pleased that at last we can discuss this.
How you doing, Joe?
TD Mischke, sir. Mr. Gumbinger?
Yes.
TD Mischke here.
Oh, okay. Hey, Petey. TV?
TD.
Okay.
There have been many shipwrecks in history. What makes the Fitzgerald so special?
Oh.
It's something I've thought about for many a year. It's a question with which you can wrestle.
I'll have what you're having. Now, let's see. Well, I think the fact that it happened in our lifetime, there's no doubt that most of your listeners were probably alive when the ship sank.
Could something like this ever happen again? Is there any way we can avoid it? Should they be worried today up there near Whitefish Bay, or am I just getting all paranoid?
There's always a possibility of a maritime disaster, and you hope that it doesn't happen, but it seems to happen every decade or so.
It's said in the song, and I don't have this wrong, that the gales of November came early. But if the date of the sinking was November 10th, then it sounds like the gales came right on time.
Yes, more or less they did. ironically, this is the last journey of the year for the Fitzgerald, and double ironically, it was going to be the captain who is in his early 60s. He sailed Lake Superior for over 40 years, and this was not only going to be the last journey of the season, but also going to be his career.
It's also mentioned in Lightfoot's tune that there was some kind of hurricane west wind. But how in the hell could a hurricane gale find itself all the way up by Michigan?
It was literally a freshwater hurricane, and this weather system started out in Oklahoma, Panhandle, and worked its way up, directly centered itself right over Lake Superior.
How do we know that the cook down below ever said, fellas, it's too rough to feed ya? Since everyone died, I assume Lightfoot lied when he overheard, fellas, it's been good to know ya.
That's a little conjecture on old Gordy's part. I've laughed about that one myself.
So who was this Edmund Fitzgerald anyway, and what in the hell was his story? And how does he differ in way, shape, or form from your average Tom, Dick, or Harry?
Well, he was a very wealthy man. He was the chairman of the board of Northwestern Mutual Life Insurance Company, owned by owned and run in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. So technically,
Okay, Alex, stop it for a minute. Do we have any more clips?
We
Sure, what else do we have?
the big German bank clip.
You want to set this up?
Yep. Big German Bank was typical of what a lot of my show was. A news story would appear. Something about it would intrigue me. Something would seem whimsical about it. Something would get me excited that would not typically get the average person excited. In this particular case, it was a headline that had the words Big German Bank in it. And I often created little ditties about the news. It was typical for me to take a news story and head off on a tangent, banging on the console in my radio studio. This is just a headline that comes across my desk, and I get fired up by it.
Okay. Here we go.
Favorite headline of the day. Newsflash! Stop the press!
Extra, extra! Read all about it! Extra, extra!
Big German Bank is raided in a search for tax cheats. I don't know, I just like the headline. Big German Bank is raided in a search for tax cheats. A lot of action in that headline. A lot of action. They went into a big German bank. I already love the sound of that, a big German bank. And it's raided. I like anything that's raided. And they're looking for tax cheats, for cheaters. They went in there trying to get some cheaters in a big German bank. It's a big German bank. Yes, a big German bank. We're not here to get paid. This, my friends, is a raid here at this big German bank. Big fat German bank.
This is all ad-lib.
German bank.
No.
People, get out of your seats. We're here to find tax cheats at this big German bank. Humongo German bank. A monster bank. Surprise, surprise, we are raiding you guys at this big nasty bank. It's a frickin' mammoth bank. Look at the size of this bank. The smell in here is rank. You're all going in the tank. We're taking down this bank. Big German bank. Big German bank. We got 300 men in your files again to find the cheats in this bank. And when bank officials said, "What the flaming hooty-hoo are you guys doing? Well, what are you doing?" Well, investigators said, "By God, we're raiding this bank. This big old German-style bank. We're tipping it upside down. We're taking all that we've found. We're raiding this here bank." When asked if they'd care for some complimentary cookies and juice over at the corner table near the tellers, investigators said, We didn't come here for a stinking snack. This is a full-scale attack. We are 300 guys staring you folks in the eyes, saying, now everybody back. This is a frickin' raid to find mistakes that you have made. Into your files we've pried to find what you hide. You people should be afraid. And the bank president said, so I suppose a free bank calendar is out of the question, gentlemen. And investigators said, get him in a headlock, boys. He's showing far too much poise, considering he's on the verge of seeing his life merge with daily prison noise. You ever heard of slam and sell? It's like the closing gates of hell. You wouldn't display such cheer when you've been locked up a year. Believe me, sir, I can tell. And I don't need a free bank gift. Through your files, I'm here to sift. And if I find what I suspect you, sir, I will collect and to downtown give you a lift. Am I making myself heard? 'Cause fella, you have my word. This bank is going down, and you, sir, I will hound till you're a singing jailbird. Now everyone on the floor.
Okay, Alex.
Won't be no talking, Nanny.
I want to mention there are tons of these kind of clips people can listen to online. If you type, what would you type to find all your audio clips?
A listener on his own recorded, and this is in the days when he'd throw a cassette tape in his boombox. Recorded the shows. We don't save. There was no such thing as saving radio shows in my career. Nobody saved a show. You had a gigantic reel that went around slowly in case there was a lawsuit, and it was a real bad, weak little bit of audio that legally would have been able to be used in court. So people were on their own if they wanted quality recordings, and even quality is a rough word to use. But this guy created a website called MischkeMadness.com. And he has a lot, all on his own.
Very cool. And it's still up, still active.
Yeah, he's,
cool.
It's freakish to me. I mean,
yeah, how many fans do that? That's cool.
And what's really weird is I don't think it's legal, but I don't think they care. I mean, technically the station owns all that. I don't own any of it.
All right. We got to tell the bear story. That's how we met.
Yeah.
I think that is how we met, wasn't it? No. Well, it was maybe our first road trip together.
Yeah, I had a babysitter all set up because we were going to head up north, and you were doing a documentary, The Man Who Walks with Bears, Lynn Rogers, and the great North American black bear expert. And I wanted to tag along and do a radio show on him. And last minute, my babysitter bailed, and you pull up out front. I tell you I can't go, and you say, throw the kids in the back of the car. I think they were 3 and 5. And in your van, we head up there. And this is March. It's just the black bear are just coming out of their dens. They're radio collared. And we're going to find them following the signal. And it's you with your equipment, Lynn Rogers. Both of you should be there. This is a project that's real and important, and you're working on it. Why the hell I'm tagging along with my little handheld recorder is the big question. And then beyond that is, why are there 2 children 7 feet away from a black bear in the wilderness that is nursing its cubs? My wife was gone. She did not know I was on this trip with you. She would have assassinated me, bringing these kids into this situation. And not only are we with a cub or a black bear in the wild nursing brand new cubs, but Lynn says, would you like to get closer and record the sound of the cubs nursing? It's a very interesting sound, but you'll have to go almost right against the breast. I don't think there's any danger there. So I crawl on my belly, keeping the two kids behind me because he said, you all have to look like you're one person. It can't be like three people. You have to like create a snake and be one person. The bear can deal with only monitoring one thing, but not multiple things. So I bring them all up there together. And I put the recorder right against the black bear so I can hear a wonderful sound of cubs nursing. We made it out alive.
Yep. We did. Yeah, and I think that's the trip that I started the box of Mischke crap too. Because you and your kids left a whole bunch of stuff in my van.
Yeah, there
Tons of
was a
stuff.
recklessness to my life then.
But it was, oh my God. But I do remember one of your boys chasing the van because we were going to leave, and I don't think you knew there was something going on.
You might have lost
And
time.
I'm
Yeah,
like,
one time my wife and I were out in California borrowing one of those trucks that have the campers on the back, those pickups with a camper in the back. And after several miles, my wife mentions that we haven't seen the kid pop up in the little window. Well, there is no kid back there. He's been gone for quite a while. We're traveling around without him. We don't know where he is. He's 4 years old, somewhere on the West Coast. We found him eventually in a remote area.
oh my God, that's too funny.
They're all alive. All the kids are alive. I killed a jeweler one time, but I have not. My kids are alive.
That's good. Yeah, and they're all grown up now. I haven't seen your kids in many years.
6, 4, both of them, and they could kill me. Yeah, they made it. They will tell stories the rest of their days of hanging out with the old man. I wasn't father of the year or anything, but we had a good time. I'll tell you that. We had some fun.
That's absolutely nuts. So, are you really digging the new road show?
It's funny you call it the new road show. I did 4 years at CCO Radio after 17 years at KSTP, and I quit CCO. I walked away because I was so tired of it. The daily grind of it. Daily live radio was killing me after 20 years. I started the road show with the idea that I do it 3 or 4 years. It's 10 now, this new road show you're talking about. Over 10.
Wow.
I'm ready for something else, frankly. I'm ready for my last grand adventure before I wrap it up for this go-round.
Oh, my God. I remember one time you called me. This is a true story. He calls me up and he goes, yeah, I built a log cabin in Wisconsin. And he goes, are you supposed to take the bark off?
It's still on today.
I'm like, it's a little late. He asked me that question.
It's still there. I had this idea. I had heard that if you wanted a piece of land in the 1800s in the Minnesota Territory, if you wanted a piece of land, you had to agree to build a 12 by 12 foot log cabin with one window and one door. If you would do that, you could homestead it. You could lay claim to it. They weren't going to give you property just to hunt on or farm. You had to show you're going to live there. You had to build a 12 by 12. So I wanted to build one of those. And I had some land in Wisconsin. I said, wonder how many guys went through this. I want to feel what that's like. So I cut down the trees. The trees were lovely, high pine trees. And I built the cabin, put in one window and door, 12 by 12. But I didn't read nothing about taking no bark off.
Oh, I remember just about died. I'm like, is your cabin done? He goes, oh, yeah.
A lot of it's kind of gotten old and peeled off since then, but a lot of it's on there. A lot of it's still on there.
Oh, man. That was so funny. That just gives you an idea of the interactions you'd have with TD. He
By the
never
way,
ceased to amaze me.
If we had video cameras back then when I built that, I would have been the anti-Dick Proenneke. You know Dick Proenneke?
No, I don't.
Who is that?
He's the famous guy who went up to Alaska at the age of 50 and spent 30 years filming himself. He was alone. but he shot himself being, without question, the most highly skilled woodsman that ever existed on planet Earth. And it became a public television special. And anybody can put in Dick Prenicky on YouTube. Most people know of this guy. I've seen him. They might not be remembering the name, but they see 30 seconds of this clip or any clip and they'll go, oh, that guy. He did everything perfectly. And I mean everything, as far as going into the woods and creating a life, building a cabin, hunting, knowing how to do everything. And he brought cameras. I hate to say it because he's a legend and a hero, but he brought cameras to brag, to basically tell the world, I'm not going to live alone and be the most incredible human being ever and die and not have the world know who I was and what I was. You are going to be in awe of me before I leave this earth. And everyone who's ever watched this is in awe of this man. He, at 80 years old, he finally went back to the Bay Area and he died at one of his family members' house. But for 30 years, he was up there alone, him and the birds. The birds would all camp on his shoulders and he'd feed them. And you should watch that, Doug. That is right up your alley.
Well, what's on your bucket list?
Seeing Bigfoot.
Okay.
I've not seen him. I would like, you know what? Some people, they see him and then that's what they want to study and do the rest of their life. But I think what I want to see him for is because I've thought about him since I was a child and I'm in my 60s. And I don't need to study him, but I would sure like to see him or her. I would really like to see that before I died. And if I thought on that Minnesota reservation they were routinely seeing them, I'd be there tomorrow. Outside of that, I don't know. I wrote a book within the last year about this part of the country and winter and the bizarre relationship between the people here and that season and how different it makes us from anybody else in any other part of the country. It's called Winter's Song. That was on my bucket list.
Is it published?
Yep. Published through Skywater Press. It's available everywhere. It's called Winter's Song, A Hymn to the North. And it takes the territory between eastern Montana and northern Michigan and holds it up as a unique climate that utterly and completely changes and transforms the people of that region in a way no one else in America or most of the world can truly understand. It affects everything about who we are. And cool. I loved doing that. It took me 3 years to write that.
Well, who would be your dream interview? If you could pick anybody in the world, who would you interview right now?
And so many of the ones I've wanted to have died. In fact, one thing about this road trip show, the podcast I do is called the Mischke Road Show. It's my view that the great characters are dying and not being replaced. That the world is not a world anymore that produces great, unique, iconoclastic, eccentric characters the way it used to, because there's a way the world and the media creates a more homogenous environment. We all adopt each other's personality traits, people we see on TV. There's like this set way of being now so much of the time. And before that, there were some real quirky, odd guys. Well, I spent years finding them. And I'd interview them, and they'd be 87, 92, 94. They were guys who were born in the 20s and the 30s. And everyone I've interviewed is dead. So I'm catching them in the last year or two of their life. In some cases, I left, drove to Minnesota. They were dead before I got here, and they weren't even sick when I interviewed them. I just caught the very last words because these characters were at the end of their lives, and they had lived extraordinarily weird, unusual lives. There's a guy in the middle of Yellowstone who in 1970 answered an ad to be the winter keeper. It's a 2.5-mile snowmobile ride into the middle of Yellowstone. He lives alone all winter long in there, has since 72. No one else applied for the job because, well, think of The Shining. You go mad. And all he does is when it snows, he takes the snow off the rooftops so they don't cave in of the little village there. Doesn't have a woman, doesn't have television, doesn't have anything. He's in a little cabin. I took a 2.5-hour snowmobile ride in January into the middle of Yellowstone, spent 2 days with him. Handheld recorder talking to him. 2.5-hour snowmobile ride out. He was in his 70s then. I don't know what's happened to him, but they had decided he was not going to be replaced. They didn't think they could find anybody else willing to do the job.
Did
So
you
when he
ask him
died-
about Bigfoot?
You know, I did not ask him about Bigfoot. Is there much related to Yellowstone and Bigfoot?
No, absolutely. Absolutely.
He told me some incredible stories, but I did not bring up Bigfoot. That was about 7 years ago I did that.
Hmm. Yeah, he might have had some stories, or not. Who knows? But
You
yeah,
know, when
there's quite a
when these
history.
people have these experiences, the thing I'm always struck by for the non-believers out there, where's the game in telling these stories? Where's the game? Like, it's not Doug Hajicek has his secret cameras playing. I'm going to do a gag where I tell you I saw Bigfoot. These are earnest, serious people talking about an experience that changed their lives. Then you meet another one, then you meet another one, then you interview another one, then you read about another one. Then there's this police chief and this former army guy and this other guy. And after a while, you just say, for the whole thing not to be real, there has to be the most bizarre, elaborate mass hallucination in the history of the world. And I always think, isn't that the weirder story? Wouldn't that be the harder one to sell? Wouldn't that be the strangest of all? That this whole thing has just been made up and everybody has agreed to this?
Yeah, I agree.
So, because I can never get there, because that's the true hard story. You're sitting there looking at the Patterson thing saying, is it real? Is it not real? Is it real? Not? I'm saying, I can't believe there's a world anywhere, a planet anywhere in the solar system where people in mass make up stories like this. And the payoff for them is they're ridiculed. They're ridiculed. That's the big payoff. That's fun. That sounds like a good time. But none of the people I ever talk to who don't believe it address that. I never hear anybody address that who's a cynic or a skeptic.
Well, how would you deal with this sighting? Let's say you had a face-to-face. How would you mentally deal with that? How would that affect you as TD Mischke?
Well, first of all, I would go straight to my podcast and any media who wanted to talk to me. And I would feel compelled to add my name to the names of people that, whether you believe it or not, look into my eyes, judge me however you want, get a sense of my validity with this tale, but I am going to tell it. The last thing I'm going to do is keep it to myself. You know, I hear stories with the UFO thing where someone has something happen. They say, I don't want to be ridiculed. It's a small town. I'll be pigeonholed as the oddball. You know, I don't think we have that luxury. I think we have to speak the truth as we see it. And I would feel compelled to at least do that. After that, I think it would mess with my sense of what's going on. What's really going on in the world? What is existence? You know,
Yeah,
I
right.
think it would play with that.
I think it would take a few days, but I think you would be in that same situation where you're just like, what? You know, it just all your paradigms shift, all of them.
But I think what would be hard, Doug, for me to do, knowing what other people have done, is to go, well, now I'm going to go really try to find this thing and learn everything I can about it. I've watched people do that for decades, and there's no satisfaction. I don't know give me the name of the woman who has Zoo Book again, Amy
Boo.
I don't know if she's, she has that one sighting for, I believe it was seconds, a series of seconds crossing a bridge, but she's sure of it. It was clear. It was daytime. As this time is going by, is frustration setting in? Did she think by now there'd be more? is she happy going to her deathbed with no more information? That day she saw it is going to be it. That's depressing.
It's kind of I think that could obviously be a curse. A lot of researchers like John Green, who, spent upwards of 50 years journalistically investigating, documenting sightings, traveling all over the country. I would spend night after night on the phone with John, year after year, every night talking to John. And in the end, he died without any resolution to the mystery.
You know what I equate it with? Working on the Crazy Horse monument.
Okay. How?
Make a tiny little advance, maybe a little bit of the nostril, die, next generation, fix the eye a little bit, die. When, who's going to see it finished? Maybe in 500 years, it's like that. It's just baby steps, baby. Even the UFO thing has movement. 2017, New York Times does this thing, Pentagon whistleblowers, stuff is out. That has more movement than Sasquatch. That has more mainstream media attention.
Well, the New York Times did an article last year about Zubuk, about Amy Boo's Zoo Book. And that was in the New York Times.
You know what it reminds me of what she's doing? Back in the 90s at KSTP, I interviewed scientists who went to a website where they could be anonymous to detail mystical experiences that had no scientific explanation, that they had no one to talk to about because their buddies were scientists. And they detailed everything that happened to them, whether it was an out-of-body experience, a mystical experience of, a peak experience of kind of being one with everything, or having some sort of sense that they just had an experience science can't explain, that sounds a little bit like a religious experience or a mystical Native American experience or something. And they're just the guy with the pocket protector, and they're going to work in the lab, and they got to talk to somebody because this was realer than real. In fact, to a man, what they said was this was more real than real life. This seemed fake compared to what they experienced. And they had to go to this website and spill their guts and then go on with their life. And I thought, boy, is that sad? Is that where we are? These are scientists having real experiences the same way when you do an experiment, you have a real experience. But they can't talk about this one. They can talk about the other one, the one they found when they did the one in the lab. They're both 5 sense experience. They're both, you're seeing, feeling, experiencing, thinking about, addressing something. But one is legit, and one you got to kind of hide on a website. And this one that Amy has, how sad is that? I'm anonymous because if they ever find out that I had this experience, my career's over.
Yeah, there is something sad about that. Although I've had a couple come forward now that actually let me record them for Legend Science on different, Bigfoot topics. So they are, once in a while they do come out and go public, and I think it's more needed. I just can't imagine. There is, in my mind, zero chance they don't exist. I've seen them. And I've seen them with witnesses, but you still question your own sighting, even though you've had somebody with you.
Yeah.
It's never an absolute until they're acknowledged, until people quit laughing at us.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, if every single person, I don't know how many there are, but if every single credentialed scientist who's ever had an experience step forward en masse, I think it would move things. It would. I realize, the same way Stephen Greer and his whistleblower crowd with the UFO stuff moved the dial by all coming forward. But they feel more comfortable today than the Bigfoot people. I don't know.
Do you think the Bigfoot topic is more taboo than even the UFO topic?
Absolutely.
You do?
More taboo. Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, the French government, the government of France, created a panel and put out an official document after a couple years of looking at all the evidence and said, based on what we have, the only reasonable explanation is we are being visited from other people from other planets. That's a government statement. The Israeli defense minister is on record saying he's on board with this. The former Canadian defense minister. These are top shelf people. We don't have that with Bigfoot. We don't have the Jane Goodall coming forward saying, hey, wake up out there. You know, yeah, it's moved much further along, especially post 2017.
Well, what do you think the best evidence out there is, Tom?
For which?
For Bigfoot. And then for UFOs.
For me, the best evidence is the sightings of serious, sober citizens who have nothing to gain by their report, and their sheer number, the fact that they're never going away, that it just stays there, generation after generation, more sightings. Again, I don't know how you can create a story. What is the story? I'd love to grab someone and say, paint me a picture of how this is. Mass hallucination? Because you can't tell me they're all lying. So you got to be in hallucination country. You know, I sort of, you know where I put Bigfoot? In the same category of near-death experiences. Thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands all over the world, near-death experiences. Some coming back and reporting things they couldn't possibly know, like they were outside their body in another part of the hospital and they saw something they couldn't have seen, overheard something they weren't around to hear, and reported it after they came back on the operating table. You have documentaries done on this. You have it reported by, you know, family members in every city in America know somebody who's, you know, either my relative or a friend of my cousin. I mean, it's a very common story. And yet scientifically, it's hallucination. The brain is releasing some chemical at the end and you're just seeing things. That's where Bigfoot is for me.
What about, what if a bunch of scientists come forward, say 2 or 3 or 4, and agree that this new DNA study is conclusive, that they got the entire genome? Is that a game changer for you?
Here's where it's a game changer. Instead of the world needing you to now invest your money and time and energy and equipment, the big guns internationally would come out. If what you just said came about, there would be no more reason not to take all the energy of the science world on planet Earth. What would be bigger than this for people who are into the animal world, for people who are into the biology of the earth? This would be, because what you just described was proof. Why would anybody not make this the number one thing? You know, forget the alligator hunter and the grizzly bear guy. Everyone would become a Bigfoot person.
Yeah, I'm just, I'm even
Why
hoping.
wouldn't you? No more ridicule. No more ridicule.
Well, I'm really hoping that we can get even more evidence there's actual potential for evidence of the skin oil that can provide DNA, latent details on their fingerprints. And then you get the DNA from those latent fingerprints. And then you've got the chemical composition of the skin oil that probably will not match any other, non-human primate or humans. And if we can do that, where we've got 3D evidence, I think it'll definitely raise the bar. And of course, all sorts of grants will be given.
Yes.
How
many people are there like you in this country? How many people willing to spend their time, their money, their energy, their technology? How many of you are there?
There's certainly hundreds.
Yeah, I'd say that.
Hundreds, but most of them may not be quite as, financed as I am.
That's true.
but they put a lot of time, a lot of boots on the ground, and they have a lot of experiences, a lot of rock throwing and audio recordings, but the gold standard, clear, close up, Nat Geo quality footage is elusive.
Yeah.
And it's going to have to be clear and close up and long enough where people can go, oh, that is not fake. And we don't have the technology to fake a good Bigfoot video yet. The gravity markers on the hair, it isn't right. AI can't even get out the right amount of fingers. So AI is a long ways. I don't know when it'll get there, but at one point we will cross that threshold where we won't be able to tell, and that's scary to me. Then the burden of proof is going way, way up.
Right.
So what are your thoughts on AI? Does it scare you?
It doesn't scare me, because I think, as with everything, there's as much potential for it to create wonderful things as horrible things. Sure as, the internet has been an extraordinary gift and has been a horrible creation, depending on how it's used. So I'm always a little bit reluctant to declare anything good or bad. I mean, a fork can be pulled out of a drawer and you can eat a meal, or you can stab your spouse. The thing itself isn't good or evil. It's what are we going to do with it?
Yeah.
But as with every form of technology, you can't stop it. So you just get that out of your head.
Yeah, the genie's out of the bag.
And you're not going to be able to completely 100% rein it in or control it, keep it just the way you want it, except that this is the world we live in. Technological advancements come, and horrible things come from it, and wonders come from it. And we just have to make peace with that. Sure as we have to make peace with the fact that World War II looked absolutely horrific compared to the Civil War because of technology. But we're also enjoying this evening tonight based on a lot of great technology.
Yeah, that's true.
That is true.
We've got some really nice comments. Jeff Perella says, phenomenal show tonight. It's great to see Mischke. I've been a fan for a long time. And Kevin Morrison's been saying really neat things about all sorts of things like the Freeman footage. I don't know if you've studied the Freeman footage. I got to get you a copy of the Freeman footage book. It's really unique. It's really cool. We got the enhanced baby lift. And once you see that, I just showed it to a guy last night and he was like, yep, that's pretty unmistakable. It's a baby being lifted, a baby Bigfoot.
I think I may have seen that, because I did some digging when I learned what you were up to. Around, I think we reconnected a few months ago, and I went digging into some of your stuff, and I think I saw that. What I try to always do with my eyes is look at it from a skeptic's point of view, because that's where the needle gets moved. If I look at it through the eyes of people who are already all on board, it looks different than it does to.
Well, you have to look at it through an open-minded skeptic, not just somebody who absolutely is closed-minded. I don't care what you give them. You can give them a body, like Quint had mentioned. I think it's going to take a body. I think even those guys are going to go, nah, that's just a genetic. That's just some freak of nature.
Did you take that footage, or have you thought of doing that, and bringing it in front of an open-minded skeptic who has never been on board, but is willing, if you can show me something, I'm willing to be a believer. And have you moved them with this?
I think I've moved some. Yeah, absolutely. Certainly people who even thought not only were skeptics at conventions, but Michael Freeman presented it to a bunch of skeptics. And a bunch of just, regular folk. And they were just floored. Even the skeptics were floored. And the people that completely were against the Freeman, who knew about it, but just thought it was a hoax, completely changed their tune publicly, on a big screen, playing it over and over where they could study it.
In my show, Doug, when I did a show on this, the thing that moved National Public Radio reporter most was the nests.
I can believe that.
The
Yeah,
nests.
absolutely. Yeah, I can believe that because
there wasn't an alternative explanation.
no, there isn't.
And so I played clips of her, she ends still being a skeptic, but she said that's the one that was the toughest to explain away for her. And I would argue 1/100th of 1% of Americans know about those nests.
Probably less than that. Yeah, in the world, way less. I mean, it's just.
But I mean, that's
well, even the
bizarre.
Skookum Body Cast. Even the Skookum Body Cast.
I know, but think about it. Everybody knows about the Patterson film. I don't think there's
Yeah.
anybody that's on mugs and cups. And this is the thing that moved her more than anything else. But where's the story on it? Where's the multiple? Where's the New York Times story like the 2017 UFO story on the front page? If that's the thing that you can't explain away, and she's a reporter in a seasoned national journal.
All right. Well, let's take your suggestion and put out a challenge to Amy Boo, Shane Corson, and the Olympic Project. And maybe Amy, because Amy's connected at this point, maybe Shane and Amy can get all of the photos and the conclusions from all the primatologists that have studied and get everything in one spot and get it to the New York Times.
Yeah. And like that 2017 reporter who did the UFO thing in the New York Times, she said the day before she talked to those people, she would have called the UFO story career-ending poison, absurdity, ridiculous, best for the back pages of some comic book. Within 24 hours, she's shaking her head saying, my God, these are legitimate U.S. government officials telling me the most incredible stories I've ever heard. What was the difference? It was their level of, it was what their status.
Yeah.
And then she heard about the French government's report. And she said, well, what do I do with this? You guys are talking as if this is real. And, the light went on for her. It's where does the light go on for you?
Yeah.
I think you're right that a true open mind is a tough thing to find out there, because a true open mind, there's a former CIA guy who said something really great one time. This was on the UFO subject. He said, I hold things lightly but vastly. So all sorts of things from this fringe to this fringe, unless they're proven to be false, they don't get let go from my grasp. I just don't hold them as tightly as some other things, but I hold them. And I don't think there's a lot of people out there that hold the Bigfoot possibility and just hold it, even lightly. They either grip it tight or there's no grip at all.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
Yeah, it's really good. David Ellis mentioned maybe a book needs to be done on the nest. I agree, David.
Yeah.
Excuse me, 100%.
Yeah.
And the information needs to get to a New York Times reporter, because those guys have power. They have power. Yeah, the book should be at least all of the materials gathered into one place.
Yeah.
Absolutely. The nests are important. I'm going to need those materials anyhow here coming up. Well, with that, let's just plan on having you back, Tommy. We covered a lot of ground. I'm sure you're hungry, tired. And
it was fun being on this side of it,
Yeah.
So many times I'm the guy asking the questions, and I often think about the other person's role, but I'm not going to worry about them anymore, because I don't think this was heavy lifting for me. I like this part of it. You guys do that.
Great.
You guys do the hard work.
It was great having you on. This was fun. Stick around after the show. I want to talk to you about something, Tommy. So I do want to leave everybody with a huge thank you, and thanks to everybody in chat. Man, we had some great comments. Thank you, Greg Olson. Some of your comments are always so appreciated. Everybody, Kevin, Quint, the whole group in here. And of course, Flat Rockland too. Some of your comments are just absolutely amazing. So with that, I want to say good night to everybody. Big thanks to TD Mischke and of course Alex and the entire audience of watchers, listeners, and all the family in chat. So we actually really feel like you guys are a part of our family. So, and always remember, if you work really hard and you're kind and you're fair to people, good things will happen to you. So good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night.
I call you up in the middle of the night. Been bothered by dreams, ain't feeling alright. You give me comfort, say just give it some time. By the end of our talk, I'm feeling just fine. You and I will always know where we belong. This ain't no ordinary love we got going on. I'll pick you up in my 59 Ford. We head on down the road until we get bored. Just you and me and the sun and the wind. If the rain should start falling, we'll head on home again. Everybody else can see where we belong. Oh, ain't no ordinary love we got going on. At the end of the world, together forever is one, and I'll wait. If ever you should be in doubt, and I'll pray they never can pull us apart, and I'll wait for the time when we'll be together every day. But I know if ever we'll be led astray, that I'll find my way back home to you again. At the end of the world, together forever is one, and I'll wait. If ever you should be in doubt, and I pray they never can pull us apart, and I'll wait. At the end of the world, together forever is one, and I'll wait. If ever you should be